Hello there. This is a almost 6-month update. Some of you have asked me for an update on my healing journey, which is to be continued. And some of you have said, "What the heck happened to you?" And you haven't heard my story. So here's your opportunity. This will be a longer video than normal. But what happened was April 3rd, the night before Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday, I slipped on 2 little steps inside my house. Ended up in trauma room 6. They told me I had a dislocated ankle and they prepped me for surgery, and they were getting ready to put me to sleep so they could pop my ankle back in. And at the last minute decided to do an x-ray where they discovered I had multiple fractures, not a dislocated ankle. So they gave me some painkillers, put a splint on me. Well, they reset my bones, put a splint on me, and sent me home to wait for a surgeon. Because it was the holidays and I have Kaiser Permanente, and because of COVID, it took me about 4 days to see my surgeon. I had to have approval from a primary care physician to even speak to a surgeon, and a lot of the doctors and nurses were on vacation. They weren't available, they were busy, and it took about 4 days of just me sitting at home with all these broken bones just waiting for a surgeon. So that was not that fun. But eventually 4 days later, I finally got to see a surgeon. When I went in there, he took the splint off and was absolutely horrified to find that the emergency room had not splinted me properly, nor had they reset my bones properly. So he had to explain to me that when you have a broken bone and you need a splint, you need 12 layers of like cotton batting between your skin and the splint. And the ER I'd gone to only put 6 layers. So when he took the splint off, I had this massive pressure blister that was probably bigger than a silver dollar, but it was unfortunately right on the site where he would have to make an incision for surgery. So it delayed my surgery by a week, which was unfortunate. Also, they did not set my bones properly. So here's the splint in the surgeon's office. The splint had just come off. You can see all the bruising. And he did his best to treat the blister. He delayed the surgery so that the blister would have time to heal, and he actually reset my bones, which if you've never had anyone do that, that was probably one of the worst days of my life, although it's all relative. But it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, bear down, spray it with some cooling agent, and hold on to the nurse like for dear life, because it was one violent, loud crunch and all my bones were aligned. A week later, I went up to Northern Virginia. They prepped me for my first surgery. Pleasant experience. I did have to deal with all the COVID stuff, get the COVID swab. 15 minutes later, the lab said I was negative for COVID. I had my surgery. It was supposed to take 2 hours. It took 6 hours, and I went home. And 2 days later, my surgeon called and didn't like what he saw on the post-op x-ray and scheduled me for surgery again 2 days later, because evidently the first surgery was botched. And the angle at which the screws were put into my ankle to hold my ankle to my leg bone were put in at an angle that would have left me disfigured for the rest of my life. So the second surgery was not an option at that point. And but my normal surgeon did my second surgery, and he did an amazing job fixing the problems from the first surgery and making sure all my bones were aligned and all the hardware and the metal was properly installed, and I'm very grateful for that. These pictures are post-op. You can see all my stitches after my second surgery. They're healing up nicely. I do want to, while these pictures are going by, I do want to encourage people out there, if you've had an accident, an injury, or surgery, and you need painkillers, I just want to make a comment about opioids that A, they don't even touch the pain, and B, all they do is make you not care about the pain. They're highly addictive after the 4th day. So they gave me opioids to fight the pain, but I had to take myself off of it every 3 days because they're that highly addictive. And honestly, they didn't really touch the pain. So if you have the opportunity to advocate for yourself medically, which we did, but we had to really fight for non-addictive painkillers. And I just want to tell you, it's worth it. So advocate for yourself medically, fight for non-addictive painkillers. You know, opioids are made in China. The big pharma makes big money off of them, but they're not the best option. So advocate, do your research, advocate for yourself, and insist on painkillers that are non-addictive. Much, much better. I mean, every 3 days I had to take myself off the opioids, and it was excruciating. It was excruciating. So here's my surgeon taking my stitches out. And shortly after my stitches came out, I did come down with just a horrible infection in my surgery site. I have several surgery sites, incision sites, but the long one up the right side of my leg became really infected. Eventually, I was healed from the infection enough to go from a cast to a boot, and here I am getting fitted for my boot. I think I wore a splint for a month, a cast for a month, and a boot I think I wore for 2 months, maybe 6 weeks to 8 weeks, and then I was in a brace for a few weeks. And here's some pictures of my hardware. I call these my glamour shots. Yep. There you go. So here I am and that pedicure, let me just tell you people, that pedicure lasted like 3 months. It was supernatural. I was praising God. Praising God. Because at least I had something. Here are my most recent glamour shots. I love these pictures, but you can see there's a lot of metal in me. And yeah. Coming up is a picture of my surgical team, my surgeon and my nurse. She's a born-again Christian. I love, love, love them. They helped me so much through so much trauma. He's the one that fixed the first botched surgery that was done by the on-call surgeon up in Northern Virginia. And this is a picture of the room that I was in, pretty much every week, multiple times. This is where I got all my casts. This is where I got all my x-rays. This is where I had my bones reset. One of the worst things in my entire life. It was actually worse than the break, honestly. This room right here. I preached the gospel in this room. It was awesome. I don't remember how long I had to use a wheelchair, maybe a month, but eventually I graduated to crutches. This is me in physical therapy. You're learning how to use the crutches. I have a team of 3 physical therapists that work with me, a man and 2 women. They're awesome. Here's the first time in sneakers, closed-toe shoes, which was absolutely huge. That was amazing. The right ankle obviously is much, much more swollen than the left. And here's a picture of my scar now, which, as you can see, it's not pretty, It looks like a train track, whatever. At least I can walk somewhat, so, I'm not going to complain. But I went from a wheelchair to crutches to a brace and a cane. And here I am at physical therapy. This is me getting iced after a lot of hard, painful work. But, I'm grateful. I'm super grateful. And here's my facility. Good morning. I'm on my morning walk. Every day I try to walk at least 1 mile in my neighborhood before it gets to be in the 80s or the 90s. I have a 5K for the end of November, actually on Thanksgiving Day, and I have less than 90 days to be able to walk a little over 3 miles. So that's my goal. Thanks. My favorite part about walking is the birds and the bunnies. It's a little bit too hot right now. I got a late start on my morning walk. It's already too hot for the bunnies, but in the cool of the evening, the bunnies are usually right here in the grassy area of our neighborhood, and they're so cute. Good afternoon. It's an absolutely gorgeous day, and I'm up to 1.3 miles a day. Next week I'll try to increase little by little, baby steps. But it is really, really beautiful in my neighborhood, and I just wanted to share how pretty it is. It's in the 70s with a nice breeze, very sunny. Just really pretty. Time for my daily 1 mile walk. I'm gonna go out the front door today for the first time. And I have about 3 steps, I think. So I'm gonna try it. No cane, no railing. Okay, I did it. Conquered that fear. Off on my walk. See you guys later. Here I am again, and some of you have asked for an update on my healing journey in a few days. It will be, let me think, on October 3rd, it'll be 6 months completed, and walking is still laborious. It's still challenging, but I'm forcing myself to do it. And yeah, the PT and the surgeon have some concerns about my mobility because they had to do a revision, a surgical revision. They don't like my progress, even though I'm working really, really, really hard. But basically I'm looking at going back into the operating room in December, which I'm doing my best to avoid. So that's my goal right now, is keep doing above and beyond what the surgeon requires of me, as far as my balance, flexibility, and strength training, and just trusting God, because at the end of the day, the Lord is the healer, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I can do everything I can do in the natural to submit myself to the medical world, the medical authority, but the Bible is clear that Jesus, God the Father, He's the great physician. He's the healer. You know, Jesus went around healing, and He said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So, you know, that's my hope. Jesus is the hope that anchors the soul, and it's all in His hands. So I'm just praising God today. I'm worshiping. It is absolutely gorgeous out today. And I just want to encourage you, if you're facing some kind of like medical battle or medical setback, or maybe you're sick, you don't feel good, or maybe you're trying to get a diagnosis on something and you're just not getting anywhere. That, you know, doctors are our helpers, but they're not our healers. Jesus is the healer. Be blessed today. Thanks. Bye.